And we have today task number 2 inside the network exploitation basics and Nmap. Task number 2, introduction. When it comes to hacking, knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have about a target system or a network, the more options you have available. This makes it imperative that proper enumeration is carried out before any exploitation attempts are made. Say we have been given an IP or multiple IP addresses to perform a security audit on. Before we do anything else, we need to get an idea of the landscape we are attacking. What this means is that we need to establish which services are running on the targets. For example, perhaps one of them is running a web server and another is acting as a Windows Active Directory domain controller. The first stage is establishing this map of the landscape is something called port scanning. When a computer runs a network service, it opens a networking construct called a port to receive the connection. Ports are necessary for making multiple network requests or having multiple services available. For example, when you load several web pages at once in a web browser, the program must have some way of determining which tab is loading which web page. This is done by establishing connections to the remote web servers using different ports on your local machine. Equally, if you want a server to be able to run more than one service, for example, perhaps you want your web server to run both HTTP and HTTPS versions of the site, then you need some way to direct the traffic to the appropriate service. Once again, ports are the solution to this. Network connections are made between two ports, an open port listening on the server and a randomly selected port on your own computer. For example, when you connect to a web page, your computer may open port 49534 to connect to the server's port 443. And in this diagram, you can see from our PC, which is this icon, connecting to 3 web servers for 3 different applications. Here we can see our random ports and the respective HTTPS port for all 3 applications that we request. As in the previous example, the diagram shows what happens when you connect to numerous websites at the same time. Your computer opens up a different high-numbered port at random, which is used for all its communications with the remote server. Every computer has a total of 535 available ports. However, many of these are registered as standard ports. For example, an HTTP service can nearly always be found on port 80 of the server. The HTTPS service can be found on port 443. Windows NetBIOS can be found on port 139 and SMB can be found on port 445. It is important to note, however, that especially in a CTF setting, it is not unheard of for even these standard ports to be altered, making it even more imperative than we perform appropriate enumeration on the target. If we do not know which of these ports a server has open, then we do not have a hope of successfully attacking the target. Thus, it is critical that we begin any attack with a port scan. This can be accomplished in a variety of ways, usually using a tool called Nmap, which is the focus of this room. Nmap can be used to perform many different kinds of port scans. The most common of this will be introduced in upcoming tasks. However, the basic theory in this Nmap is this. Nmap will connect to each port of the target in turn. Depending on how the port responds, it can be determined as being open, closed, or filtered. Filtered usually is behind a firewall. Once we know which ports are open, we can then look at enumerating which services are running on each port, either manually or more commonly using Nmap. So why Nmap? The short answer is that it's currently the industry standard for a reason. No other port scanning tool comes close to matching its functionality, although some newcomers are now matching it for speed. It is an extremely powerful tool made even more powerful by its scripting engine, which can be used to scan for vulnerabilities, and in some cases even performing the exploit directly. Once again, this will be covered more in upcoming tasks. I can't wait to show you that. For now, it is important that you understand what port scanning is, why it is necessary, and that Nmap is the tool of choice for any kind of initial enumeration. Answer the questions below. What networking construct are used to direct traffic to the right application on a server? When a computer runs a network service, it opens a networking construct called a port to receive the connection. How many of these are available on any network-enabled computer? 65. 535. Research how many of these are considered well known. These are the standard numbers mentioned in the task, right? So basically the default numbers that are set to certain services like HTTPS, SMB, like we read above. Okay, let's search for this. There are three ranges. Well-known ports from 0 to 1023, registered ports from 1024 to 49,151, dynamic and or private ports from 49,152 to the entire range 56,535, 1024, including 0. Amazing.